Hi, I'm Jennifer and I'm super excited and super happy you're here today. Today we're going to be making a wonderful, delicious, super easy, heart-shaped puff pastry cinnamon roll. It is absolutely beautiful and delicious. It's perfect for any occasion, anniversaries, Valentine's Day, birthdays, or just any day of the year. Before we get on with our recipe, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Let's get ready to put this recipe together. The first thing I have is 1 box of puff pastry sheets. There are 2 sheets in this box and I just took it out of the freezer. I'm going to let it sit out on the counter for about 30 minutes. I just removed the puff pastry from the package and I laid it out on some parchment paper. I'm just going to roll it out a little bit to get the big lines out of it and to try to get it in more of a square. Sometimes it cuts in a little bit in the middle, so I'll just roll that and then I'll do the same to the second piece. I have a cutting board here under the parchment paper, and then I have rolled out the first sheet of puff pastry and then the little wax paper pieces that come with it. I just set those in between, and this way I can just roll right on top of the other one. And you want to keep this nice and cold. You don't want to handle it very much. You want to keep it nice and as cold as possible. There we go, that'll be just fine. Now what I'm going to do is take a knife and cut this in a heart shape. I'm just going to mark my center, and then I'm just going to go ahead and mark it at the bottom. And I'll just go ahead and take this, the edges right like this, and I still have the parchment paper in between. I'm not going to cut through it. I'm just basically marking where I want the heart shape to be so that it's a nice even shape. Then I'll just trim off these sharp corners with my cooking shears and put this sheet of puff pastry on top of the other one and trim around it. I'll take the parchment paper out, or the wax paper, so that it will not be in my way when I trim the 2 hearts. What I've done here is just take a knife and make the angled cuts on the edges of the heart just to kind of get my shape, and then I'm just going to take my cooking shears and I'm just going to go ahead and trim this puff pastry into the shape of the heart. I have 3 tablespoons of melted butter, and I'm just going to brush this right on top of the puff pastry. This is what's going to be nice and gooey and hold all of our ingredients on the inside of this wonderful cinnamon roll. Brush it clear to the edge so all of the goodness sticks right in the butter when you go to put this together. We want our cinnamon rolls to be nice and buttery. Now that we have our butter on, we're going to take our brown sugar. This is about 1/4 cup, and we're going to take some cinnamon, about 1/2 tablespoon, and we're just going to mix these 2 together. Then we'll just start sprinkling this right on top of the puff pastry and butter. You can add more or less if you'd like. I'm just going to take my spoon and spread it around. Now that I have the whole thing covered, I'm going to take my second layer of puff pastry and lay this right on top. I'm going to press it down so it's nice and secure, and I can make sure everything is the same size. Then I'm going to take this little heart cookie cutter and put this right in the center. I'm going to press it down to mark my place. It doesn't have to be perfect. Then I'm going to start taking my knife. I have a very sharp knife, and I'm going to cut right down the middle here and right down the other side. These will be my guidelines, and then I'm just going to start cutting all the way around. I'm going to make the same marks on each side so that way it's consistent all the way around. I'm going to do one at a time on each side. And I'll just keep going back and forth so that I can carefully measure as I go. You want these strips to be about 1 inch wide. they get a little bit wide, that's okay. Just make sure they're consistent on each side. And if you need to, hold that little cookie cutter down. They'll get a little bit wider at the bottom as you go, but that's okay. And this is why you want to have the cutting board underneath. And I put this on the parchment paper because I want to be able to easily lift this off when I'm all done and put it right on the baking tray. You have to move around a little bit or else take the whole thing and turn it as you go. Okay, there we have it. Now I'm going to start the twisting process. We'll lift these up and start to twist. The side on the right, we're going to twist to the right and do about 2 turns if you can. And then the side on the left, we're going to twist to the left. That's very easy to remember. And once we do that, I'm just going to pinch the ends together. And if they don't stay together, you can always use a little bit of water to get those pinched together. And I'll just keep going around. I'm going to twist this one on the left to the left and this one on the right to the right. And then I'll just pinch the ends together. The same thing here, the one on the right to the right, and the one on the left to the left. Just keep alternating back and forth as you go. I'm going to flare it out just a little bit at the bottom so that it fills in all of the space, and you can move them around and adjust them as you go as well. And there we have it, a really nice heart-shaped design with a puff pastry with a wonderful cinnamon roll filling. I'm going to get ready to put on the egg wash. First, I'll go through and adjust and make sure everything is nice and neat. Before I do the egg wash, I'm going to take the puff pastry and pull it right up on to my baking sheet, because that way I won't get the egg all over everything. Okay, now I'm going to turn this around so you can see it so much better. And now I'm going to put on the egg wash. This is just beaten egg that I've mixed up with a fork. I have another little silicone brush and I'm just going to lightly brush on the egg wash. This will give the puff pastry a really nice, shiny, professional look when it comes out of the oven. You don't want it too thick. Just put a really nice thin layer over everything. Now, if your puff pastry has warmed up while you were holding it and handling it, if you had to do too much adjusting and arranging, go ahead and pop it in the refrigerator for a little while, maybe 15 to 30 minutes, and get it really nice and cold again. Because that way the puff pastry will really not lose its shape and it'll really bake very well. All the butter inside the puff pastry will be nice and cold, and it'll really help it to puff up nicely. I'm gonna set mine in the refrigerator for just a little while since I've had it out making this video. That usually takes a little bit longer than if I just assemble it and pop it in the oven. So I'll get it nice and cold again before I put mine in the oven. My cinnamon roll puff pastry has been in the refrigerator for 30 minutes. My oven is preheated to 400 degrees, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in on the center rack. I'll bake it 20 to 25 minutes. While our puff pastry cinnamon roll heart is in the oven, let's go ahead and put together our frosting. We're going to put in 2 ounces of cream cheese. And I've left this sit out a little while at room temperature. Then we're going to put in 1.5 tablespoons of softened butter. I've melted mine, but it's not very warm. It's just about room temperature. Then we're going to put in 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla. I I have a pinch of salt here and 6 tablespoons of powdered sugar. Let's go ahead and mix this together. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in the pinch of salt. Then I'm going to slowly add in the powdered sugar. We'll get this mixed up really well together and set it aside for our cinnamon roll. I'm going to put this up on medium and make sure it is thoroughly mixed. And there it is, our frosting is all ready. And here it is, our puff pastry cinnamon roll heart has just come out of the oven. It smells absolutely delicious. We'll let this cool completely before we put on our frosting. Now that our pastry is all done and cool, I'm just going to start brushing on a little bit of icing. I don't want to cover everything up. I'm just going to highlight the twist on our lovely little pastry. This will add a little bit of color and sweetness as well. You can add as much or little as you'd like. And I like to brush mine on in the direction that the twist is going so that you can really see the twist right underneath. And here's your dessert all ready to serve. If you'd like, you can even dust this with powdered sugar. I am so glad you were here today. I had so much fun putting together this wonderful pastry. I hope you give this a try and realize just how easy and how delicious and beautiful it is. I would be so happy if you subscribed, hit the notification bell and the thumbs up button, and I'll see you next time.